Hello, everyone, and welcome to our summit series, Overachievers Loving Life. My name is Vangelis, and in each of these videos, by now, you've probably seen over 20 of them, and you realize that I usually start the videos with just a little bit of my own events in my life that kind of dovetail on what most of the speakers talk about. And this one is where I was told it's better to give than receive. And it's the old thing that if you think of others first, and you're supposed to have this sense of accomplishment. But the thing that would start happening to me is I started helping people because it was almost like an obligation. Do this, do this, do this, do this. Did you do this? Did you help it? And then you start helping people, not because it's from a genuine heart of desire or sincerity or even love. It's because I feel like I have to. And that kind of breeded this thing of I need to do this. You know, it's not like I really want to. And so then 50 years later, I realized I wasn't happy. I felt empty. I'm supposed to be feeling accomplished and with a sense of real purpose, but I'm just not. And I helped people out of obligation, not because I generally desired to help them. And I felt guilty if I did not. And so I was just performing the activities I was told to do. It was just a vicious cycle. And so that was where I was about 13 years ago. And so I decided I want to make some changes in my life. And it was not just one tool or one technique that I used. It was a bunch because there were a bunch of reasons why I got to that point. And that's why I put this summit on with a variety of speakers, because they all have their own techniques and their own methods and their own unique stories and ways that they were able to make changes in their life. And so this summit is so that everyone knows that there is hope that you can change. But not only that, yes, you can change, but how? So I've noticed that there are some books and seminars where they will tell you, think differently, change this and do that. And my question is always, how do I think differently? How do I empower myself? How do I go after this? And so that's one of the themes that I press upon really strongly is let's talk about the how do we get that? So that brings us today with our speaker. We're privileged to have Angelie Kapoor with us. She is an award-winning professional career and leadership coach, trainer, writer, and speaker with over 20 years of experience in the healthcare industry. And she's held numerous leadership and management roles and is the founder of Oversight Global, an organization that aims to address the consciousness crisis in the world. She is passionate about educating and empowering individuals to reach their fullest potential and make a unique contribution to society. Her wit, creativity, and professionalism make her a powerful advocate for change. So welcome, Angelie.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm so happy that you accepted my invitation. So I like to start these videos and interviews where we talk about what were the events that led up to the point in which I realized things were not aligned with what I really thought I wanted to accomplish. I'm accomplishing things, but I'm just not living my life. So we talk about those events. And then when we get to that pinnacle or that momentous occasion where we make a change and something happens, then we're going to talk about what that change was and how did it occur. So start us from the beginning and start us on our journey here, Angelie.
Yeah, so I actually have a background in healthcare of over 20 years. I started in healthcare, and before long, I really found myself unknowingly having this mission and this drive within myself to find purpose, to find where I was feeling fulfilled and where I felt like I was being fully utilized, and I was also impacting and contributing to others in the fullest way that I could. Well, it was early in my career that I found that every position that I would find myself in healthcare, I got to that point very quickly where, you know, I'm not feeling like this is where I'm going to be able to reach my mission of feeling purposeful and fulfilled. So I found myself myself unknowingly starting to climb the career ladder. And I did so pretty quickly because every time I got into a position, it was the same thing. It's like, I still don't feel like I'm in a place where I'm being purposeful and serving others to my fullest potential. And before I knew it, I had climbed the career ladder all the way up to the leadership and management ranks. And it was actually when I was in my highest management position. I was actually the second in command of the company that I was at the time. I was making good money. I had all of these opportunities in front of me, and I was actually managing 6 different departments, and I had 15 providers that I was leading as well. And I still was at a point to where I wasn't happy, and I didn't feel like I was being the highest contributing factor to the people that I was able to impact. And, people were telling me I'm crazy, because they were like, you have this dream job that most people can only dream of having it. And you're telling us that you're unhappy. But again, I just was at a place to where I was not finding that inner feeling of, I am happy and feeling purposeful. I'm really impacting people the way that I want to. And it got to the point to where the defining moment for me is actually when I got laid off from my company. We started to experience some financial difficulties. And of course, management positions is high paying. So it was one of the places where the doctors felt like, well, if we let her go, we can save some money. But it really was that defining moment for me, because it really made me stop and look at where I had come in my career and where I wanted to go. So when that happened, I went through all of the, emotions and stages of trauma. I felt angry, I felt betrayed, I was sad, I was devastated. But also during that time, it really made me look at, who I was. And I found myself really being in this identity crisis of, I always identified myself with my job title, but not having that, I really had to look at, well, who is Angelie, aside from having been this healthcare manager? And it was really during that time where I really recognized that I didn't know who I was. I had, in my life to that point, I had been doing what other people told me to do. I had been doing what people expected me to do, but I wasn't, I didn't really know who I was. And so during that time, I really deep dove into, who is Angelie, what is it that I desire in my life? And that's where I looked at my career and saw what things I had done that I was really passionate about. And I really came to realize that I was really passionate about whenever I was helping, I was coaching, mentoring, and training my staff and other people in my company. That's really where I was really passionate. I really felt like I was being happy and successful. And so that's when I really pivoted into coaching. I, dove into getting professionally trained as a coach. I did that for a year. And then I started my own coaching business. And I really started to feel like I was helping people in the way that I had always wanted to, but I couldn't quite figure out how to do that. So that's how I got to where I am today.
So take us then way at the beginning so we can understand, well, how did you get to that point where you have all this success and you're second in command and you're just not satisfied? So take us back to the beginning so that we can see how that all got created.
Yeah, that all got created, I think. And, I didn't realize this at the time, kind of more in hindsight, that it really started from when I was a small child and being raised, by parents who really expected me to, make the highest grades, be the best in school or whatever it was that I was doing, playing the piano. And, I don't fault them or blame them for that, because I believe that parents, just everybody wants the best for their kids. And, as parents, we're kind of learning as we go too. So I think they didn't mean for me to kind of have this mindset and this limiting belief of myself that, oh, I have to always be the best at everything, and oh, even if I get to the best, I have to do even more. So that's kind of how my childhood was, is that, you know, I was successful, but then I needed to be more successful, and that drove me as an adult in my career and other things that I would do. You know, in college, I was the same. You know, I had to be top in my class, but then even do something even further and be top in my extracurricular activities as well. So that really
take us back to some of the examples, because you had some really good examples when you were younger.
Yeah. So as a kid, you know, I had an entrepreneurial spirit from very early that I didn't recognize. But during school, we would have, you know, seasons where we would sell different things in order to raise money for school programs. And one of those was we would sell chocolate bunnies, you know, around the time of Easter. And I always drove myself to, you know, sell the most and bring in the most money to our PTA programs. And I remember one year, I think I was in third grade, where I had sold 300 bunnies. And that was really unheard of, because most kids sold like 10 or 20, mostly to friends and family members. And I was out there selling 300. I actually got recognized by the school, and I got this trophy for, you know, having achieved this. But I remember coming home, and my dad was like, well, that's great. Well, next year you need to sell 1,000. So, you know, that was kind of the expectation of, yeah, that's great, but you could do better. And again, I don't think that they were, oh yeah, go ahead.
No. The thing that really caught my attention this time when you said that story was, you were recognized by the school, but not by your mom or dad.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
so what makes me think about that, Angelie, it's not just recognition, but I guess, and help me out with this, is it recognition by particular people then? Because you got recognized by the school. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think you're onto something there, that even though I was, you know, recognized by, you know, my school, my teacher, my principals, the PTA board and things like that. And, you know, there was this big ceremony where they took all of the classes into the auditorium and presented me with this award. And, you know, I got applause from all my classmates and everything. So there was that recognition. But yeah, I mean, not having that same recognition from my parents was completely different, you know, because I felt like I wanted to make them proud of me, especially my dad. I mean, in hindsight, I realized that a lot of the things where I was an overachiever is because I wanted that recognition from my dad. I didn't want oh, that's great, but you can do better. I wanted that's wonderful. You are successful. I love it. You're great. And, you know, later in life as an adult, after dealing with all this, I get that type of recognition and gratitude from him now, but I didn't get that as a child. So I definitely feel like that was a basis of creating this overachiever mentality and expectation for me, was that, you know, I wanted that recognition from my parents, particularly my dad.
It's almost like, what could he have said to you that would have hit that spot in you where you would have said, oh, okay, and now you can tell me to do better next year? But what was it that he could have said that, because I'm sure in his mind, he wants you to, you know, just always be better and stuff, but it was that, what's that one little piece that was not present, that you were listening for something? I know you were. What were you listening for, Angelie?
Yeah, I was listening for the being recognized just for who I am. You know, him being proud of me for who I am and for what I did, and not expecting more. So yeah, I knew, you know, again, having done my own self-development process as an adult, but that's what I was looking for. I wanted for him to recognize me and love me just as I was at that time.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that's an important point. is that it's not just the recognition, but it's by who and how. Because as little kids, you always want, hey, mom, look at me, mom, look at me, dad, look at, it's just that, so long, oh, I see you,
Right.
It's
right.
that little thing, Okay,
Exactly.
so you sell the chocolates, all right, and then you get all this recognition, and then what was the next? There were some more things that were happening that kind of reinforced that idea. So what happened next?
Yeah. I mean, as I kind of went into high school, I also got involved with, again, my desire to serve others and at the same time kind of be recognized as, in freshman year, I ran for and became the class vice president of our freshman class, which, it was a big high school. We had a few thousand people in there. So it wasn't a small accomplishment. But, again, going home and saying, hey, I'm the vice president of my class. And then, kind of being told, well, that's great, but, we need to have you be president of the school type thing. So again, I don't, think that my parents were purposefully trying to, kind of create this overachiever mindset in me. And it's just, they just wanted the best for me, and not seeing it from a different perspective, just kind of led that into them creating this overachiever expectation in me.
Yeah, and none of this is an attack on anyone. All we're doing, and I know you know this, all we're doing is just getting to the understanding how certain events, certain things that people say, how we interpret them, how we put meaning to them.
Right.
And it doesn't, even if it was vicious or not vicious, because if they had every intention that I want to, help you, motivate you and stuff, it's how we thought of it at the time. And then that's what created our belief around it. And then we carry that. And then when it happens over and over, so it's the chocolates, it's the vice presidents, it's this, and it's like, it keeps augmenting, I mean, it'd be a couple of times where maybe you sold Christmas trees, and this time he didn't say sell more. He just went, yeah. So it's those things where it's not like I have to have it all the time, but it'd be nice every once in a while. And that affects our acceptance of ourselves. So take us through that. So now you're VP, and he's, well, it's great, but you need to be president. So what were you thinking now?
Yeah, I mean, I was really kind of thinking the same thing again. I wasn't in third grade, I was in high school, but it was that same thing of, okay, I have to do more. I have to do more to get this recognition and kind of love that I wanted from my dad. So, again, that took me into college. And then as a young adult getting into my career, it just kept repeating itself as like, I have to do more. And before I knew it, I was this, and at the time I didn't know that I was an overachiever. I didn't recognize that until I had gotten laid off and was really doing the deep dive into trying to find out who Angelie was. But that's where I had found myself, especially when I started college. I was so busy trying to achieve that a lot of my friendships went away because I didn't make time for that. That wasn't a priority. My priority was doing the things I needed to do to be successful and achieve, to get that, recognition or feel purposeful. And definitely in my career. I mean, I, again, had climbed the career ladder very quickly and had gone through so many stages that my relationships weren't a priority for me, or creating hobbies or enjoying my time off. I was constantly working. I was constantly taking courses and getting certifications to where I was advancing higher in my career, again, being that overachiever that tends to get burnt out because that's all you're focused on is that success.
So let's talk about balance then, because it's the same thing that was with me. There was no balance of anything. It was an obsession, and it was the motivation behind the activity, not necessarily activity. We're not saying that don't work a lot, but we're just saying, why are you working so hard? Yeah. So because to have a balanced life, you define what a balanced life is. Mm-hmm. We're not here to say this is a balanced life. It's like you define it. I mean, right. I was listening to this one guy. He said, okay, I want to get my health. I want to get my spiritual. I want to get my career. I want to get money. I want to get everything. He said, but I think that the first thing I should do is make as much money, because once I have all the money, then I can have time to do the career and my spiritual and my all this kind of stuff. And that's what he did. He spent like the next 10 years, made millions of dollars. Said, okay, now I'm going to balance myself out. But he was totally that's the only thing. And he did it, and that's it. And when you read many books from people that we're just going to say successful, meaning they achieved what they wanted, mm-hmm. they did not have a balanced life. Right. Because it was obsessed about this. And then this whole thing about multitasking, now there's books all over the place saying doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Or you can't do it.
Exactly. And even a computer, people go, well, computers don't. No. A computer does one thing at a time. They just do it very fast.
Exactly. Yeah. They upload programs at a time. They update one at a time. Yep. Yeah. So again, after I got laid off and I was doing the deep dive into really discovering who I was, creating balance was something that I noticed. Again, I recognized, I was in this place and I really didn't have a support system or network other than my husband and my immediate family, because I had let those relationships go. And I really didn't have people that I could really, turn to and talk to about what I was experiencing with this traumatic event that had happened in my life. But yeah, I started to recognize that, it was my career advancement and success really what I wanted. And, I wanted balance in other areas. There were things that I wanted to learn hobby-wise. I wanted to learn how to play new instruments. I wanted to learn different languages and things like that. And I never let myself have that because I was so focused on my career success and climbing the career ladder. So I definitely agree with what you were saying about the gentleman who thought that if he made all this money, then he could balance everything out. Well, if you continue, I found that, with me trying to continue to do that, I was kind of running into the same thing. Mm-hmm. And it all comes down to quality of life. It's like, living in the present and the here and now. Am I living today with a good quality of life? Or am I too leaned over to this way or this direction? And really realizing that even the people that have built millions and billions of dollars, money doesn't make you happy. I mean, it's really about you recognizing what makes you happy and doing that and not waiting. I tell my clients this all the time. Don't wait until you feel like you have to meet a certain dollar amount or that you're perfect or conditions have to be perfect, because conditions will never be perfect. And you're going to continue to stride in that direction. And again, you're just going to continue to feel the same emotions of not feeling fulfilled and not being happy. It's really being in the present moment and realizing I can be happy without having all these other things. It's a choice.
So when you say present moment, I want us to define that a little bit more, because we hear that term, to stay present moment. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, in my experience, I've really found that being present for me, and again, this it is dependent on the person really, but for me, being present really means me not pondering on the past and not being too focused on the future, but just enjoying moments of my life in the moment, being happy for this day, being happy that I woke up, being happy that I'm eating, a particular meal that I really enjoy. So just really being present and aware in the moment and not being handcuffed by my past or what I want in my future.
So you were not present during all that stuff leading up to that time where you were laid off, because you were so fixated on, so the past you were bringing into the present was wanting to do more and more and more, and thinking you were wanting to do more. So that's what kept you out of the present, was you had learned growing up to always do better and better and better. So that was what you were bringing in to the present. And so you weren't living the present because it was that conditioning that happened that's causing this present to really be the past. Does that sound?
Yes, exactly. I mean, I wasn't living in the present. I mean, again, I wasn't recognizing my achievements. I wasn't recognizing the things that I did within a day, let alone, a few years. And I think that's true for a majority of the population, especially because we're in such a fast-paced world. We don't take the time to just sit and say, what did I get accomplished today? Most of us, because we have these expectations of this particular to-do list we have to do, if we don't either get a certain amount of things done or certain projects done, then, we feel like we failed. We didn't do anything that day. We didn't get anything accomplished that day. But if you really sit down at the end of your day and say, oh, look, I was able to achieve this, this, and this. And then also look at what you're grateful for. What are you grateful for that happened that day? Oh, I'm grateful that I was able to get a full day's work in. I'm grateful that I had this conversation with so-and-so, just really being present in the moment and recognizing where you are, what you've achieved, and what you're grateful for. Or the things that, I've since found, since recognizing that I was an overachiever, habits that I now have today that help me to be more positive and feel more fulfilled.
So there were a couple of things going on there. One was the idea that you thought you had to do more so that you could get recognized. And then there was the thought that we don't recognize ourselves.
Right.
There's an external and an internal that's going on simultaneously. Because if I could learn to recognize myself, I wouldn't do you think if you could have learned to recognize yourself, do you think that would have prevented you from wanting the recognition outside?
Yes, exactly. You actually hit it right on the head. And I actually go through this a lot with the people that I work with, is that,
take us through that. Take us through that.
Yeah. So we are, if we are able to recognize ourselves for the things that we accomplish, then we're not looking for that external recognition. I went through this when I was going through my career too, is, I learned that really in the workplace, we're motivated by like three major things. There's three major things that people are motivated by. And I found this, in myself, as well as working with my staff, that, we're motivated by money. A lot of people say, I just work for a salary. I just work to get that paycheck. And you're also motivated by recognition. That's who I was. I wanted to be recognized for the things that I did and accomplished. And then there was people that are seeking connection. They really want to be connected with people that they work with, people in their lives. So those are really three main motivators that I found in myself and then in working with others. And like you're saying, because I was somebody that wanted that recognition, instead of looking externally for it, if I actually went within and said, oh, I recognize myself for achieving this, this, and this, then you don't look for it externally. In fact, now that I've kind of developed into knowing that, I don't look for the outside recognition. And in fact, because I don't look for it, I get recognized even more. So yeah.
Okay. Stop that, because that's okay. Just a second. External recognition now appears because I recognize myself. Okay, so tell me, what do you think is going on? Because that just seems opposite, right? So what do you think happened when you start recognizing yourself? What was the shift and change in energy? Take me through that.
Yeah, I think with me recognizing that I didn't need that external recognition and acceptance from others, if I found that within myself, and I was being present and recognizing and being happy with the things that I accomplished and who I am and continue to progress into. I didn't seek that external recognition. And, I'm not sure what the shift was to where that energy changed to where even though I wasn't looking for it, it brought in more, especially I've received a number of awards being recognized for my leadership and my dedication to helping others. And again, I wasn't looking for that. But because I was just happy and really comfortable with myself and what I was achieving and recognizing myself for that and celebrating, myself for the accomplishments that I was making, that just kind of, somehow brought in this external recognition that I wasn't even looking for. I mean, I could say that it was kind of like the law of attraction that, I'm sure that we've heard of, where you are in this type of energy and in this kind of zone where you just start attracting things that you're not even really looking for, but they're coming to you anyway.
Well, I was just going to say that because I'm not doing this so that I can be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I am happy, therefore I'm doing this.
Right.
And so that's what I'm hearing you say, that the
Mm-hmm.
happiness starts first, that then has a certain frequency and a vibration. And,
Right.
When people say, we're on the same wavelength, okay, so we're just using the word frequency. We could say wavelength, all right?
Mm-hmm.
That happiness has such a high wavelength, a high frequency vibration, that everything that matches it just matches. It's like having two guitars in a room. You
Mm-hmm.
pluck one string and the other string starts vibrating. I didn't pluck this one, but because it matches in frequency, it vibrates. So you
Right.
can't say, no, that doesn't happen, because that's the way it happens. So if thoughts are frequencies, what's the difference? My thought matches your thought. Birds of a feather flock together. Come on, we hear it all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that, since you were talking, that made me realize, okay, so that's really what you were talking about, because that's what you said. I was happy, and then all this stuff came. Okay, well then that makes sense.
Right.
So
Right.
what, I know you said, I'm not quite sure, but let's think about when you get that firing, you get laid off. What did you do at that moment? What did you do? What was, because you said you were sad, angry, and all that kind of stuff. What happened that you just kind of, got out?
Yeah. So, I mean, it first of all, this took a number of months for me to kind of climb
It
my
wasn't a
way
minute?
out of. No.
What? It's supposed to happen in a minute, right?
Yeah, because I mean, again, we're talking about me having a career and then this really starting in childhood. I mean, it was like an onion. I really had to start stripping away, okay, what got me to this point? And, do I want to continue? In fact, I had this conversation with myself. Do I want to continue in this direction and just go out and find another management position? Or do I need to go another direction? And that's how pivoting to coaching got created. But again, it was really me trying to figure out who I was. And I did that in a few different ways. I started meditating. I started journaling. And I really got into recognizing what it meant to have like this empowering morning routine. I really got into looking at people who were successful and happy and what did they do. And one of the big things that really stood out to me was that, these successful, happy people had these empowering morning routines that they had created that really set them up in this positive mindset and to be at this particular energy to where they were able to take that and be successful in their day. And then as a habit, it created, more days, weeks, months, years. And so I really worked on, where do I need to improve, and then how do I do that? And one of the things that I found was that, first of all, I had these limiting beliefs and behaviors that I was doing that I didn't recognize at the time that I needed to overcome, as well as, my mindset. I always thought that I was a pretty positive, upbeat person, especially to go to advance in my career. But then I found out during this time that, man, I had some negative thoughts and some negative self-talk going through my mind constantly. So just, again, coming into awareness and consciousness, and that's why awareness and consciousness is a big thing of what I do today, is creating that awareness and consciousness and recognizing, oh man, these are the things that I wasn't aware of. When I become aware of them, then I can move forward, progress, grow, heal from that.
What were some of those? The reason I want you to name a couple, because gosh, we don't realize that everything we say does something. And I hear people saying constantly things that I say, I would not say that to myself, but they go, oh, it's just no, you're thinking it's a joke. It's not. You're too serious. No, I'm actually not. You're the one that's serious, because an excuse is an affirmation.
Right.
Right. So take us through some of the thoughts that you did not realize you had, because I think that will help a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I really found that I was a perfectionist. And when I was working, I was always told and was under the impression that being a perfectionist was a good thing, especially being a manager. I always received feedback from my director and from, the higher ups that, you're so detail oriented and your processes and your plans are so perfect. But what they were really doing was solidifying my drive to be perfect all the time. And, when I was really deep diving and coming to know myself, I realized that my perfectionism was really a hindrance. It was really something negative, because I drove myself. I mean, I would work hours and hours on a project to make sure it was perfect. But if I had actually just concentrated on completing that project to where it was able to be launched, that would have cut the time that I spent on that thing in half, and sometimes even to a quarter the time I spent on it. And then again, my desire to be perfect was hindering me, because we all can't be perfect, and it was really fear and procrastination being disguised as perfectionism, which again, I had to that point thought that was a good thing, finding out that was really a bad thing for me. And I think that overachievers, that's something that I found that we all kind of struggle with, is this perfectionism mindset. And it really holds us back and hinders us from, first of all, being okay, accepting ourselves for who we are, and then recognizing that, not using perfectionism as a mechanism of procrastination.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you to go into that a little bit more, because I think that might surprise some people. You mean my perfectionism is causing me to procrastinate? Yes. Go into that a little bit more, Angelie, because I think that's a critical piece.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just like you're saying, I had no idea that my perfectionism was a bad thing. Again, I always thought that it was a good thing, because I would get, people would compliment me on that. But again, I found that my perfectionism, especially when I started my coaching business, like as an example, when I first launched my coaching business, I spent 6 months on my website before I would launch it, because I wanted it to be perfect, but then when I launched my website, I was thinking, oh, it's so perfect, so all these clients are going to come flocking to me. There wasn't one person who went to my website, and I had wasted not wasted, but I had spent, all this time and energy on perfecting it. If I had just, in hindsight, if I had just got my website up to where it was functional and it just had the enough information for people to be able to go there and get the information that they needed, that thing would have been ready in 2 weeks instead of me spending 6 months because I wanted every paragraph perfect, every color perfect. And again, that procrastinated me launching my business. Instead of launching in 2 weeks, I went 6 months before launching my business. And, again, looking back, I recognized that one, first of all, I had a fear of launching my business because it was new. I didn't know anything about it. I had to put myself out there. And I used my perfectionism with my website as procrastination for taking that next step.
Okay. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. So the fear, so when people go, my problem is procrastination. No, it's fear.
Mm-hmm.
Your procrastination is your coping mechanism for the fear you have of failing. And so, well, I need to be, and then the perfectionism was covered by the procrastination, which was covering
the fear. Exactly.
Beautifully said. Beautifully
Yep.
said, because that's exactly, yep. And see, this is why I think it's so critical for us to really go deep into what is it really that is underneath all this stuff, because then we can really go, okay, what are you fearing? Okay, I'm fearing failure. Okay, so what is failure? Let's define failure, right? And because 43 years ago, when I started at IBM, they would say, failure is not an option. Today, when you read all these books about, how wonderful everything is for companies, and the companies that are really going from good to great, that's actually the name of the book, good to great, and then the exponential organizations, all of them talk about fail fast and fail quickly and then move on.
Mm-hmm.
That was not the model before, but they have a different definition of failure. It's like the definition that Edison used. I didn't fail. I just learned 10,000 ways how not to make a light bulb. So it's totally different. That was great. So what was another thing besides perfectionism that you realized was hindering you?
Well, the other thing that I realized was hindering me was, imposter syndrome.
Oh,
so, not feeling worthy or feeling like, again, kind of sort of perfectionism, where I felt like I needed to be at a level of expertise. I had to have a level of knowledge in order for me to feel like I had enough value to put myself out there. And again, in hindsight, this was me during my management career specifically. During my management career, I always had to have this demeanor and this persona of being perfect. Like nobody could know that I was in debt. Nobody could know that, I had challenges in my personal life. I had to appear like this perfect person because that's what I thought that I had to be. Later on in my management career, I learned that, the more that I could seem like a real person to my staff, the deeper our connection was and the better leader that I was. But in my coaching, I found that leaders kind of go through the same thing. They perceive that there's this certain way that they have to be or appear in order to be a successful leader, when it's actually the opposite. The more real and authentic and genuine you are, the more effective leader you are. So,
yes.
That was something that I found as well.
That's excellent. Authenticity and vulnerability. Yes. And then that makes for a better connection, because now it's like, whenever they have an example of somebody that's so far, not even reachable, like, well, what's the use?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. Even when I was in church, what's the use? I'm not going to ever attain that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's this thing that it's like a carrot that you're never going to ever get. And when they're vulnerable, it's like the picture I have now in my head is, I'm in 6th grade. I can help everybody from 1 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I'm in 12, everybody from 1 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm in college, and It's because I do have the experience and knowledge to get you to where I'm at. And that's really all that matters.
Exactly.
And that's all we're doing here is there is no destination. There's no end. It's a journey. And so what we're doing is just sharing our journeys and our experience. And then that way it can get people up to that point. All of us have mentors. My mentor has a mentor.
Yes.
It's just, you know, and that's when you realize, wait, you have a mentor? Well, yeah. I cannot see my blind spots.
Yes.
I can see yours, but I can't see mine. And that's why we work together. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so we've got perfectionist and we've got imposter. That imposter thing is a killer for many people because that just stops people cold. And what does it mean to know everything? You're never going to.
Exactly. Exactly.
Was there another one that you had that you found? Because those two are really good.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of found that I had a scarcity mindset, a lack mindset in different areas of my life. You know, and that again, fear plays a lot of it. I mean, I recognize that there were things that scared me that I didn't recognize that in the past, but really recognizing, because again, I always thought that I had this positive mindset and I was this really positive person. But certain things, you know, kind of all over the place, I really recognized that I had a scarcity and a mindset for lack. And that's really where me recognizing that and really starting to, you know, come up with practices and habits like doing gratitude practice every day. Then, you know, doing that first thing in the morning and then also in the evening before going to bed, just really being in that present moment and recognizing, oh, I'm so grateful that I have this. I'm so grateful for this. Or, you know, in the evening, being grateful for what happened throughout the day. And then I also worked into throughout my day, you know, I have a reminder every hour for me to stop. I take 3 deep breaths to kind of de-stress and get into my present moment, kind of do a body scan. You know, is there anything that my body needs? You know, do I need to eat? Do I need to drink? Do I need to have some quiet time? And then, you know, refocusing on what it is that I'm trying to accomplish for the day and then being grateful. So just recognizing and then creating habits that help me to be successful and get away from the negative and the scarcity and lack mindset.
Now, how do you guide someone when they say, oh, that's easy for you to say, but you know, they have this responsibility, they have kids, they have spouses, they have this, and they have, how do you assist somebody into seeing the value of what you're saying and then helping them to incorporate that into their life?
Yeah. So again, it really takes, like most people come to me because they want to accomplish something, but they haven't been able to do it on their own. Like people like I work with people who want to advance in their careers. I work with people who are really successful in their careers, but they don't have any balance, like they have no time for their personal lives. So recognizing what your desire is and why you haven't been able to accomplish it on your own, so we can start to break down, okay, you know, your limiting beliefs and your limiting behaviors are this. So what can we do to overcome that and get you to where you want to be? So really collaborating with someone to say, you know, this is what I want. This is the destination that I want. And then break it down to where we can create steps for them to get there and really recognize, you know, I have no balance because I make other things a priority where I really want to make these things a priority, or I want to grow in my career. How can I do that?
How did you deal with perfectionism and imposter and scarcity? What processes did you go through to help you? Did you remove them, or do you just have certain steps that you do every time a thought comes up? Or take us a little bit through that, and that'll be the last thing that we'll talk about today.
Yeah. So definitely, I mean, it's definitely a work in progress. It's not like I no longer have those things. I've just recognized that I have them, and I have ways to where I deal with them so that they don't, bind me or inhibit me from doing the things that I want to do. So especially with the, perfectionism. So recognizing that I have been dealing with that, and me just now recognizing that and seeing where I start to fall back into that habit. So now my mantra is done is better than perfect. If I can get something done, and what done is defined for me, does done mean I'm able to, complete this course to where I'm able to launch it and people are able to get something out of it. Again, done is better than perfect. So just being able to get things done, and then also setting a deadline for myself instead of me working on something never endingly until I thought it was perfect, prevents that procrastination. I can't procrastinate because I've set this hard deadline for myself. And then also with the lack and scarcity mindset, again, the huge thing for me is practicing gratitude, because you can't complain and be grateful at the same time. I mean, that's really the same thing as, whether you're practicing gratitude or complaining, it's the same thing, but complaining keeps you in those lower levels of energy, and then, makes you susceptible to a lack and scarcity mindset. Whereas when you're at a higher level with gratitude, that's when you are in a mindset of positivity and success, more of a successful mindset.
That's really good. Can you be complaining and grateful at the same time? That's great. Let me see. That's great, because they're choices.
Exactly. And really, for a long time, and I don't know if anybody else has felt like this, but whenever I would hear, you have willpower. Human beings, we are blessed with the ability to choose. And for the longest time, I really didn't recognize what that was. I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? It's really in my self-development process where I recognize we do have choice. Like, so many people complain, oh, they're not happy, or they feel like they don't have freedom. Well, every day you are making choices in all kinds of things that you do. But you have to recognize, you make the choice to either be positive or negative. You make the choice to either be unhappy or happy. And you have the choice to either concentrate on what you want to do or living up to expectations of other people in society. So you have the freedom to choose. You're not working on expectation or instinct. You are able to process through your mind and through, different aspects of who you are, and make the choice that's best for you.
So what advice do you give somebody when they say, yeah, but these thoughts just keep coming up and I keep going, I'm choosing, but they keep coming up? Well, how do you help someone that, all they can hear is their dad, you have to do this, or their mom, you have to do this. What do you do with those thoughts? How do you help them?
Yeah. I mean, again, just choose to either listen to that voice or not. That was huge for me in kind of changing my negative self-talk into positive self-talk. It was like, I would hear this voice in my head saying, you're not enough, or you're not worthy. And then really looking at it and saying, well, is that true? Why am I not enough? Why am I not worthy? And that was big for me, because as I went through that negative self-talk and really said, okay, if I'm not what I would do is I would actually take a piece of paper out and write out all of my accomplishments, and then ask myself again, after like 30 pages of accomplishments, do I really think I'm not worthy, or that I'm not enough? So really recognizing, that voice in your head, is it true? And if, why are you thinking it's true? So yeah, exactly. Recognizing that voice and questioning it. I mean, curiosity, your natural tendency to be curious, can be your best friend. Why do I think that? Do I really think that? So
that's perfect. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to recap what we spoke about. It's a lot of really good stuff. Okay, so we talked about you identified yourself with the job title, and you did not know who you were. And that was a bunch of limiting beliefs. You were recognized by the school, but not by mom and dad. And so it was important who recognized you. And when you were recognized for who you were for the class VP, once again, you were not recognized by your mom or dad. Not aware of being an overachiever, which is difficult to switch if you're not even aware of whatever your coping mechanism is. And then we talked about balance of life. We choose the quality of life that we want. And then we spoke about present moment. It's not pondering on the past or the future. We put the gratitude in place, and we take time to recognize our accomplishments within ourselves, not someone else telling us externally, but our accomplishments within. And then the motivation, what motivated you, or what motivates most people, is money, recognition, and connection. And so the external recognition now appears because I recognize myself. And we said, well, why is that? Well, because being happy attracts that recognition because it's a higher vibration. And then you pivoted to coaching, to meditating, and to journaling, so that you would really actually become aware of what your thoughts are. And now you were empowering yourself with these morning routines, and you thought you were positive, but then when you started looking deeper, you were not. And then I said, well, what was some of that self-talk? Perfectionism, hindrance, fear, and procrastination disguised as perfectionism. So we realized that the perfectionism, underneath that was the procrastination, underneath that was the fear.
Yes.
And then the imposter syndrome, that's related to our value. And so authenticity and vulnerability was what you used to override that imposter syndrome. And that created a better connection for you. And then the scarcity mindset, gratitude was what you used to help override that. The deep breathing, the body scan. Done is better than perfect. And setting a deadline. Cannot complain and be grateful at the same time. And then willpower is a choice. We change the negative self-talk to positive self-talk. And the way we do that is to recognize the voice that is in our head. That was fantastic. Excellent.
Yes.
So did you have something you wanted to offer people so that if they want to get in touch with you and they say, oh my gosh, I recognize so much stuff with Angelie, I identify with her. What would you like to offer the people to come to your website and stuff?
Yeah. So, everybody can connect with me, if you feel called to. I am on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I also have a YouTube channel called Oversight Global Transformational Channel. And I have tons of videos on there that touch on a lot of the things that we talked about: perfectionism, dealing with your inner critic. I also do a series every month focused on a single topic. So for November, there is a gratitude series that we're doing. And in December, we're doing a new year, a new you, which we're focusing on intentional goal setting. So I really encourage people to find me on YouTube. It's at Oversight Global, and connect with me on there, because there's a lot of great stuff that we go over through the YouTube channel that I think a lot of people will get a lot of insight and knowledge from. And my website is oversightglobal.com. And, if anybody wants to reach out to me via email, it's Angelie@oversightglobal.com. And just want to mention that also on my website, I have a freebies page where you can download. I think I have 9 freebies on there, and it goes into things like intentional goal setting, 5 tips on goal setting, also creating an empowering morning routine, like I talked about. It was really key for me. So I've created a couple of guides on that. Also have some stuff on what type of leader are you? So yeah, I have some great resources on there.
That's great. That's great. So the morning routine, that's something that I would really like to grab for me. All these things, because it's like when someone says, well, okay, you have a 30-minute grounding ceremony, and then you have 30 minutes meditation, then you have 30 minutes, you have 30 minutes of stretching. It's like, and then, so I get up at 3 a.m. so I can be ready by 8. It's like,
exactly.
I didn't start with that 13 years ago. It was just one thing, but once you get into it, you start becoming so much more efficient and effective. And now what took you 3 hours to do, now you can do it in an hour and a half, and now you have more time to energize and build yourself. So beautifully done, Angelie. Thank you so much for being with us.
Of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
And thank you everyone for watching, and have a wonderful day. Create a beautiful day for yourself. Goodbye.